Today you're going to do a lab where you measure energy transfer. You'll calculate it using equations of how much energy transferred from hot water to cold water. The equations you're going to use are on the board. You probably want to copy them into your notebook. There's a new one today. The new one is the first one I'm pointing to. It says 1 milliliter of water equals 1 gram of water. That's important. The next one says change in temperature equals the final temperature minus the initial temperature, TF minus TI. The second one says calories equals mass times change in temperature. The first thing you'll want to do is open your notebook to page 75. You'll see the directions there in a data table. I would also recommend copying these 3 equations into your notebook. They'll be very helpful as you calculate the amount of calories transferred from hot to cold water. The first thing you'll do when you get to your lab station is get some hot and cold water. Take a styrofoam cup, get some hot water, and take a blue cup and get some cold water from the coffee pot with ice cubes in it. The next thing you'll do is determine the mass of hot water and cold water that your group will use. It is up to you how much hot water and how much cold water to use. Please don't choose the same amount. I recommend somewhere between 20 and 100 milliliters of water for each one. Don't use the same amount, choose a different amount, but measure carefully and record the mass. Remember, the mass of 1 gram of water is the same volume as 1 milliliter of water. So record that in the hot and cold water mass box in your data table. Then, using a graduated cylinder, measure the correct amount of hot water into a red cup and the correct amount of cold water into a blue cup. Make those amounts correct. Once you've measured these 2 amounts, you've measured the correct amount of cold and correct amount of hot, take a thermometer and put one in each. Please hold the cup and thermometer because we do not want them to tip over. And this is where you will record your starting temperature of hot and starting temperature of cold water into your data table. Once you've recorded the temperature, do this quickly. You should have a clear cup. This is your mixing cup. You will pour both the hot and cold water into the mixing cup. Once you've done that, put your thermometer into the mixing cup, and after a moment the equilibrium temperature should be reached, and your equilibrium temperature is the final temperature for each hot and cold water. Once you've done that, recorded your temperature, you should begin to use your equations that you've recorded to determine the change in temperature, which you can record for each hot and cold water. Remember, the hot water should lose temperature, so it should be a negative change. The cold water should gain temperature. It should get hotter, so it should have a positive change. And then you should calculate the calories of each. Remember, the calories gained by cold water should be positive. Calories lost by hot water should be negative. Once you've calculated calories, this part of the lab is finished. You should clean up your lab station and put all the materials away the way you found it when you arrived. Then look ahead to page 76 and 77. 76 is labeled Heat Practice A, and page 77 is labeled Heat Practice B. You should practice using your equations to calculate temperature change in each of these practice pages.